Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to the cancer conquering community. And I always have to catch myself right there because I have my own YouTube channel called To Be Your Own Hero, but we are on the cancer conquering community YouTube. And what we do is we post this video on our group page, our Facebook page, the Cancer Conquering Community. So you could either go directly to YouTube or you could check it out on our Facebook page. But or if you have any questions about it, be happy to send you a link. But we are so excited today because we have a very special guest. And just to give you a little background on her, she is a professional comedian and she started this new career, and I'll let her tell you about it, but incredible, absolutely incredible. And she's gone through chemo treatments and then performed that night. I mean, my hat's off to anybody who can do that. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. And I love hearing stories, and I hear them more and more about people. Uh, I interviewed a woman named Carly Fowl, and I posted the videos these past 2 weeks. And she's a fitness trainer, fitness and exercise
Mm.
trainer. And throughout her chemo treatments, did not miss a single exercise class or her regular exercise routine. Not one. And she said that actually helped me get through all the treatments. And then she turned around and she created her own podcast, which she started filming from the infusion room while getting chemo, if you could believe that. So
Oh,
she is going to be a future guest
oh,
towards summer. You know, we're already booking speakers uh, into June and July, so be on the lookout for that. But at this time, what I'd like to do, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce our speaker, and her name is Kelly Spillman, and she's from Southern California and from my former neck of the woods, and she's got an incredible story. Kelly, thank you for joining us today. And she is a regular member of another cancer group, and she said, "Yeah, I'll definitely do this." Uh, and so we're so happy to have you, Kelly. Welcome.
oh, thank you. Thank you all for letting me come and talk today. Um, yes, I'm so glad that you all do this. I am skipping my own stage four support group. There's a group in LA called We Spark. So I have stage four colon cancer, and I couldn't find a colon cancer support group, even as a city as big as LA. So there's a group called We Spark. And so everyone in my group has stage four cancer, but we all have very different cancers. So I appreciate that you all do this. I think it's one of the best things I did was it's great to find people that are, although all our stories are different, it's still nice to find people that are going through everything. So William, when I was first diagnosed in November of 21, I do remember it was like a full-time job just doing the appointments of everything you have to do. It's very overwhelming, very time consuming. So I hear you. When I was diagnosed, it was at UCLA. And even though I have colon cancer, it had spread all over my liver. My liver was completely covered. And so I was told at UCLA, the only thing you can do is chemo. So I found another online group called Colon Town. And so this is a Facebook group that has, I think it's 13,000 people all over the world that have colon cancer. And I knew nothing about cancer before. I had no family history of colon cancer. I was 47 years old. And it just was so shocking to it just came out of nowhere, and I felt okay, like Steve mentioned, when you feel you don't I didn't feel bad, so to know that I had stage four cancer was shocking. um and so through Colon Town, I found out that not every hospital does the same thing. I just thought I didn't know anything about cancer. So when UCLA said, oh, the only thing you can do is chemo. So I got a second opinion, Steve, at City of Hope. And I did get approved for surgery. So I have had a few surgeries. I've had 49 rounds of chemo. I've also had radiation. I have done everything I can to aggressively try to remove this cancer from my body. And so unfortunately for me, it's long gone from my colon, but it just loves to come back to my liver. So I still have stage 4 colon cancer. But I was a comedian and a psychology professor when I was diagnosed, and I am still those things. And so, one thing for me that's really important, because I think cancer tries to steal the rest of our identity. And I think for a lot of people, cancer patient becomes their only identity. And I'm just not going to accept that. I'm already hearing from a lot of you, you're very impressive people. And when I joined my support group in LA, I was overwhelmed by all the accomplishments and the talented people and everything they had done. And honestly, I kind of felt like I don't deserve to be in this group. I still have ambitions and dreams I'm trying to achieve with stage 4 colon cancer. Um, Mark is a big fan of comedy, not cancer, comedy. And he is right. What is interesting is that um, I have had some of my biggest comedy opportunities after getting diagnosed with cancer. And I, it being on chemo has changed my appearance a lot. And although I am self-conscious about that, I am still performing. So I got to open at a comedy club in LA recently for Craig Shoemaker, who I've watched for 30 years, and I got to open for him to a sold out on Valentine's Day, 200 people, sold out club in LA. But with colon cancer, when we get chemo, we have to go home. The needle stays in our chest for 46 hours. So I had to do the show while literally getting chemo. And then the very next day, I had another huge comedy opportunity. I got the headline, the Mensa convention, which was in Long Beach. So I had to rush to City of Hope, Steve, to get unhooked from my chemo. And then I rushed to Long Beach and it was a paid gig. So I was worried about not feeling well, but the energy of doing comedy, the energy you get from the audience is, it's great medicine. I'll say that. Um, so, one thing I have done, and I just wanted to put this out to anyone, I'm not an expert on this, but I have put a solo show together that talks about who I was before cancer and who I am now, because for a few reasons. Number one, I want people to see, I think how stage 4 cancer is depicted in TV shows and movies is very unrealistic. They make us look all frail and in the bed and that we're going to die any minute. And so, number one, I want people to see that's not what stage 4 cancer is. Like Steve, how you brought up, I did not know this, that, you know, you don't have to accept whatever hospital you're at. Please get a second opinion because for colon cancer, our death rate is very high for stage 4. And had I stayed at UCLA, I would not be here today to be able to tell you, about my comedy life. So, um, that is another reason. But the other thing I'm doing it is, and I'm sure a lot of you who've been affected by cancer know this, there's a lot about cancer, in my opinion, that's funny. And so people don't usually talk about that. And so uh I have jokes about, that I joined the support group in LA, and I tell people I don't recommend it unless you've made all your dreams come true, because what I have noticed sadly about cancer is that very kind, generous, impressive, talented people unfortunately, get cancer. And so like I said, I kind of was very self-conscious about the dreams I had for myself. I haven't made all of those things happen yet. So whereas some people in my group, like I have someone that won 2 Olympic medals, people that won Emmys, people that run companies, Someone had raced a sailboat around the world. She holds the record for doing that. Like just really talented people that had some big accomplishments. So I have a joke in my show that up until I got diagnosed with cancer, my only kind of accomplishment and notoriety was that I am the first female Pizza Hut delivery driver of Florida. And so in 1995, I broke the pizza glass ceiling by being the first woman that was allowed to deliver large meat lovers pizzas. So um, when I joined the group, I didn't want that to be my legacy. So I'm still trying to have a legacy in case, so hold on, I'm gonna look at the chat. I wasn't sure in terms of uh oh, thank you for those saying you're connecting. And I did want to put out again, I'm not an expert, but people do have a misconception about cancer, as I'm sure a lot of you know, and especially stage 4 cancer. And so I have done this solo show a few times, and I'm about to start touring it around the country. And if any of you are thinking about telling your story that way, please reach out to me. Not that I'm an expert, but I'm starting to do this now, and I'm happy to share with you my experiences of performing this in festivals. And I'm hoping to do it outside the country as well in some festivals around the world. Um, but I, want to just show that we can still live very productive lives and that not to let cancer be your whole identity. So, Mark, I don't know, should I say more? I didn't know if people
Huh.
had questions or
You could this is your own platform. I mean, you could talk for a little bit, ask questions or input, and then keep doing it that way or whatever format that you want. It's very informal, but you
awesome.
have so, we want to hear your experiences
Sure.
and one question that I have for you is who I'm sure how does your comedy affect cancer patients as opposed to non-cancer
Yeah,
patients?
I'm glad you bring this up. I should have mentioned that. So one thing I was doing in the beginning, and this is also why I've switched to the solo show, is I would get on a show in LA, and I've always joked about what was going on in my life. So I would I would make cancer jokes. And to me, I was like, I don't want the audience to know. I want to surprise people and I want to make them laugh about cancer. And every time I did it, now sometimes people get uncomfortable, especially when you say you have stage 4 cancer. But every time I did it, sometimes the comics after me would get upset and they were like, how can I go up after someone with cancer? And so that was a little annoying. But every time I did it, someone in the audience would come up to me and say, do you have a video you can send me? I want to show my mom. I want to show my sister. I want to show my husband. And so I knew I was on to something because the reality is everyone has been affected by cancer, even if they don't have cancer. So I was torn because sometimes the audience in fact, when I did the Mensa convention, they're so smart. They were trying to cure me of my cancer instead of laughing at my jokes. So it was very painful because I'm getting paid to do this, and they would just jump up and ask me questions. So it was a little bit of a nightmare as it was happening, but they just are smart people that were trying to help. But I was like, I've been paid to make you laugh. Please sit down and just laugh. So that was an interesting thing. But yes, Mark, this happened every single time I did it. Someone would come up and beg for, and that was another reason why I was like, maybe I should just put a show together that people who come know it's about cancer. Um, I still worry because sometimes when I'm pitching the show, as soon as you say cancer, and so that's why at the comedy clubs, I liked surprising people. But I do know sometimes people do feel like, is it okay to laugh at cancer? And I want people to say, yeah, I mean, it's life and life is funny. Um, And so, yes, I do find that. So I'm very interested to see. I'm going to be doing 5 shows in San Diego starting next week, and I don't know anybody in San Diego. So I've done the show a few times, but it's mainly people who know me, or people bring someone with cancer and they have all loved the show. But San Diego's going to be the real test for me because I don't know anyone there. So whoever shows up, I'm not sure why they're buying tickets. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be mainly people who've been affected by cancer. I gave it a name. It's called I Blame Florida. So I purposely gave it a name that has nothing to do with cancer. So part of me is like, I want to try to trick people to come in because I think they're going to love it. But I am a little worried some people, may think cancer isn't something you can laugh at, or they think it's going to be depressing. And I want to show them that it's not. It's not doom and gloom. But yes, I have had a remarkable response where people are, and I especially love to send videos to people I know that have cancer. I have some friends on my stage 4 group. They just really can't make it out to shows. So it always makes me feel good when I can send them a video. And some of them have showed their friends and family because we do some of my jokes are based on things that people without cancer say to us that I think are ridiculous. And so they almost always, that's usually their favorite thing, just the things that people say to us. But yeah, that was what really stood out to me in the beginning is even though the other comics were mad that they had to go up after someone with cancer, I always, every time had at least one person in the audience, sometimes several, that were like, they had never heard anyone tell jokes about cancer. And they were like, I can't wait to send this, to my brother, my mom, my dad. So that's what's been, I think, great, is that, and I've never had anyone in the audience mad, like, you can't joke about this, or, and to me, it made me happy that I can walk into a traditional comedy club and make people laugh. Not that they're laughing at cancer, but it's more laughing at what I find funny about this experience of dealing with this.
I think what you are doing here is so important and so valuable to the cancer community. I mean, what you're doing here is you're tackling the long-standing perception that cancer is a death sentence, and we've all gone through that, and people do not know what this, the average person who does not have cancer does not know what to say to somebody who's been diagnosed with stage 4. It's always, 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 I'm so sorry. And so what you're tackling here is so important. It really is, and it's changing the perception of what a cancer patient is. I love it. Thank you for
Thank you.
being a
Well, and there's a
trailblazer.
few things too because there's a few things you are right. People do not know what to say. And a lot of us get ghosted by people, and I try to remain positive about that. I have noticed people don't know what to say, even myself, because I'm in a stage 4 support group. I unfortunately have lost a lot of good friends. And even now, I have 2 very close friends with stage 4 colon cancer. They're not doing well. I myself find that I'm like, oh, uh, people want us to get better. They want us to beat it. And sometimes we don't. And I myself, even with other cancer patients, do this, like, and so that's another part of my show is dealing with, I may not beat this, but I can still pursue my dreams. And I want people to hear that too, because a lot of people are uncomfortable. And if you see the show, I've tried my best. I'm still at City of Hope pursuing things as well. I will not stop pursuing ways to beat this, but I do acknowledge, this that I may not beat it. It is very hard to beat stage 4 cancer. And people don't like to hear that either, but I want people to see that it's actually okay to acknowledge that as well. But that is a big one that people don't know what to say. And But the advice I give people is, well, I do say this for stage four cancer. I think we can do what we want, say what we want, feel how we want. But I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't hold grudges because I just think in our society in the US, we don't talk about death. We don't have a lot of language around it, or especially if someone you care about has been given a death sentence. So I do get it, but it is one thing that is, I think, very sad for us. And also, and I don't know if any of you felt this way, luckily I have out survived the death sentence I was given. So with stage four colon cancer, 80% of us die in 1 to 2 years. So I'm still here 3 years, 6 months, and I think 6 days later. And so another thing is, at first people kind of rally around you, but if you have cancer a long time, people stop asking. They kind of stop checking in. And so, and again, I get it. But that is something else that I have experienced as well. And again, because I don't look like what people think stage four cancer looks like. So people often are like, this is so great, you beat it. And I have to remind them, no, I still have stage four cancer. But um, yes, people don't know. And so part of this is me kind of going rogue also, Mark, to be like, I'm going to make you listen to this because people don't talk about it. And I do want people, because all of us are impacted by cancer, even if you don't get it. I think all of us, someone we've cared about, unfortunately, will get cancer. So everyone's going to be affected by this, I think. So maybe I'm a little in your face about it. Like, you're going to hear what it's like to have stage four cancer.
What are your thoughts on laughter is the best medicine?
I absolutely, so William, I hope you can find the humor. It's not fun with all those appointments, but yeah, I really do think laughter is, it is really important. We have to find the humor in things, because the anxiety, of course you're going to feel some depression when you get a death sentence, but I strongly believe in the value of humor in everything. I've just Oh, it's I've as a professor, I've always used humor. I love to do comedy, and yeah, I think we always, if you can find the things to laugh at. Now, one thing too is, it's okay to have a bad day as well, but so I'm not saying we have to be happy every day and laugh every day, but I've always been a fan. I know, Mark, you have too. I've always loved comedy. Always went to comedy clubs. I've always watched SNL. Since I was young, I absolutely think laughter is one of the best things for us, and I do believe you can find humor in everything. So yeah, I just really definitely believe that laughter is healing for sure.
Well, does anybody have any input or questions or thing? Go ahead, Georges.
Yeah, first of all, awesome, Kelly. This is it's funny. I have well, you can't see it. I have a background, but this stone I got it I was at a gig in Las Vegas and I won it. It's about laughter. I do tell my clients that to relax themselves to health, but laugh yourself out of cancer. Man, it just came to me just listening to you. You're thriving, and I'm sure that you are where you are because of your attitude, because of how you are perceiving, like Mark said, this situation. Because I grew up thinking of cancer as a killer, uppercase letters and bold letters, and it's not that way. It's so tiny that you need a scan to see it, but your emotional intelligence is fighting away this thing, man. I congratulate you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you
You brought
so
up
much.
something really important too that I should have mentioned. when I did get approved at City of Hope for surgery, one thing that uh there are some things, negative things that can happen after that, and I was so worried about it. And for months leading up to the surgery, because it was something that could happen, and it didn't happen. And it was a very powerful lesson for me early in my cancer journey. Is I can't have anxiety about what could happen on this cancer journey. So one thing I really do now do is I only try to deal with what is currently going on in my cancer journey. And that is some big advice. So I'm glad you teach people to relax, because you can stress yourself out with the what ifs. And so even when I hear Steve, the spine, it scares me. I'm a stand-up comedian, right? That scares me to think that it can move to my spine, right? And so, but it's like, okay, it's not there now, so I'm not going to worry about that. And then if it happens, I'll deal with whatever happens in the future. But that's one thing I learned early in this. I cannot worry about the what ifs, because it'll just keep you up at night. There's no good. And now you've wasted all this mental energy on something that didn't even happen. So I'm glad you teach people how to relax. I definitely think that's one thing we do have control over. Let's just deal with what's going on today and not try to focus or worry about what ifs in the future. I think that's really important to do that.
Michael, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just want to, what would you have liked people to say to you when you were diagnosed? Like, what would have been appropriate for you?
So, you know, that's a really good question, and it's interesting because I brought up something that's happened recently. Is that um, what happened for me in the beginning is like my response to they called me the miracle patient early. And like these things that weren't supposed to happen kept happening. And even doctors like, we've never seen this before. And then I got all these surgeries and I thought it was going to be behind me. And then it keeps coming back to my liver. And people will always be like, you're going to beat this, you're going to beat this. And in the beginning, that didn't bother me. But then when people weren't acknowledging that this could kill me. And at first, that really upset me. I felt like it was almost belittling what I'm actually facing. But then a friend said, well, Kelly, you want people to say, oh, I think you're going to die. And I was like, oh, when they said it that way, I get why people are like, you're going to beat this, you're going to beat this. But I don't know. For me, I I realized early on that people don't know what to say. And so the thing
Mhm.
that I would say is I just was appreciative of the people that at least reached out to me, because a lot of people didn't. And I think it is because they didn't know what to say. And so I guess my advice would be, however we're feeling, I do wish people would honor that, because I think people kind of pressure us to always be positive. And although I am
Mhm.
mainly positive most of the time, there are days where this is, I was given a death sentence. This is very scary. And sometimes I had wished people didn't always push positive. Like, let us have a day sometimes to be grumpy about this, because I can't always be the poster child of positivity. But I just saw early on that people just don't know what to say. And so I try to be forgiving of that, because I get it. And I look back at myself and I realize I didn't, um, I looking back at other people that had health issues earlier in my life, I realized, wow, Kelly, you didn't really check in on these people very often afterwards. And if they didn't bring it up, I didn't bring it up. So um I had someone, the William, recently, I did my show at a university, and then I did a Q&A after. And this woman, her brother has stage 4 cancer, and she always tries to talk to him about that, and he wants to just talk about other things, and she was upset. And so my advice was to her was, well, maybe he gets tired of talking about cancer all the time and he just wants to have a conversation about sports. So I think my advice is, if you're talking to someone, especially if they're newly diagnosed, just try to honor what they're feeling. Like if they don't want to talk about it, that's okay. And if they do want to talk about, even if it's uncomfortable for you, just try to be there for the person. William, are you finding, are people saying maybe the wrong thing, or they're not saying anything at all?
Well,
Or,
I,
Oh,
oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to suggest that you ought to contact my first two oncologists for some material because they are a wealth of disinformation. And I think they're the funniest people I've talked to on this journey so far, is the first two oncologists I
oh,
had.
okay.
So, oh
Well,
yeah,
I
I'll give
do
you the
have
contact
I
information.
definitely have some jokes about medical health professionals. In fact, I just added two jokes because I have been positive. I would say 98% of this journey, I have believed I'm going to beat this. I still do, even though I've never been Ned. I still think it's in my future. But someone I cared about did not, she did pass away from colon cancer. And she was that person for me, something else. I've always looked for someone, if they have exactly what I have, but they're still alive. Like, I just need one person. And I'm like, okay, this person's lived longer than me. Okay. And so she was that person for me for like 2.5 years. And then the chemo stopped working, and then her decline was very fast, and she was in a lot of pain. And it really kind of shook me because I thought for myself, if my chemo stops working, and it will stop, I mean, it always stops working, I thought maybe I'd have, like, in my mind, I thought I had a time that I'm like, okay, when this happens is, and so for her, it was 10 weeks. And that wasn't the time that I had in my head. And it really freaked me out. And so I go to City of Hope, and it's like I love City of Hope, but it is like a cancer factory. So when you go in for chemo, it's like an 11-hour day for me. It is a long day. And I just wasn't doing well. It just rocked me because she was my person that was ahead of me, and I was going in for round 49, and it stopped working for her at 50. And things happened to her that I didn't know. And so well, it's the PA for my oncologist. She was like, you need to be grateful for what you have, and just because it happened to her, that doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. And I found her to be very negative. And then when I was getting the chemo, a nurse, because I was upset again, she goes, you need to write a gratitude list. So I have a new joke in my show. It's like, not today, Susan. I'm not writing my gratitude. Like, I just think we have the right to be scared or to feel bad one day. And I felt like I was shamed by them for, just being upset about what happened to my friend and what could happen to me. So, no, I see these horror stories all the time. And one of the reasons I'm doing my show is because oncologists give these death sentences to stage 4 people, and it's not a death sentence. Thank goodness through Colon Town, I found out to get a second opinion, because had I stayed at UCLA, it would have been a death sentence. But it really upsets me because oncologists aren't surgeons. They're not, like, we do have some options, and it's a surgeon that makes the decision whether to do surgery. And it really upsets me that at least for colon cancer, this happens all over the world, where this oncologist just tells people they have 6 months left to live, and that's not accurate. It really upsets me. You don't know how long this has, and this is, at least in colon cancer, this is a big issue, that oncologists just give you this doomsday death sentence. And I'm worried, it's one of the reasons I'm doing my show, that people just accept that and they don't know to get a second opinion or to get a different oncologist. So I have also learned, I did at UCLA, I did like my oncologist, but it does upset me. And some of them are just incompetent. And I think we just assume all oncologists are very intelligent and they know everything and what they say. And I've definitely learned for colon cancer, a lot of them do give misinformation. This is not a death sentence. So that's one thing I always say, do not accept a death sentence. Get a second opinion, switch oncologists. And I've definitely seen that, yeah. So that, like you said, they just give wrong information, and it does really upset me, because I think this is one of the reasons our death rate in colon cancer is so high, is because oncologists tell us that and people just accept it and they don't know that hospitals have different treatments. So Steve, I'm glad to hear about this new one you told us about at City of Hope. There really are new treatments, every day. And I'm very excited about immunotherapy for colon cancer. I don't have the gene, so we can't use it, but I get very excited about new treatments and therapies. And even with colon cancer, each hospital kind of has their own treatments. So, but yes, I do have jokes about my first oncologist. She would say horrifying things, but like as a yoga teacher, she would say it like in a very soothing way, but it was like horrifying. So my brain was like, you're saying this in such a soothing way, but it's so horrifying what you're saying. And I don't, to me, it was just funny that she was like a relaxation therapist saying very horrifying things. So I have found a lot of humor in what oncologists say to us. But I'm sorry if you dealt with like incompetence. That's not cool to hear.
Michael?
I went to the top surgeon in Canada, um, and he looked at my scan and he said he encouraged me to become an alcoholic. So I wouldn't
What?
have to. Yeah, he
What?
said, drink it. He said, drink a lot every day.
Oh
So I
my
said,
gosh.
my wife was right
What?
there. Yes. And I was a little shocked. And I said, not a little shocked. I was a lot shocked. And because his reputation was like a big time doctor. He said, just drink a lot of scotch and don't look back at your past life, because you're going to be able to drink a lot.
I have never heard that. Wow.
Wow.
Well,
Uh,
I can't compete with that, but I did find the most aggressive liver surgeon in the world. He's just very worship, and he did agree to do surgery on me, but he misread my chart and gave me another death sentence recently. He said I had so I have a liver pump that delivers 400 times the amount of chemo and it only goes to my liver. Um, and so I'm getting just pounded by chemo. And he goes, "Oh, there's clearly it's not working, and you have a tumor this big, and it's grown in just a few weeks." And so that's, for a huge tumor like that. And then he just sent me on my way. He loves that I'm a comedian. He made a joke. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. He completely misread my CT scan. It was not a tumor. And so even the best of the best can make mistakes. And so I was given another death sentence that was wrong. The best liver surgeon in the world completely misread my CT scan and said I had a tumor that was not a tumor. And thank goodness my oncologist caught that. Even though my oncologist is a little doom and gloom, but he caught that mistake. And so even sometimes the best of the best can make a mistake. But I've never heard that I mean, because it's on my liver, I'm not allowed to drink, but I've never heard a surgeon saying drink scotch. Was he just suggesting that as a coping method for cancer?
oh, I have an inoperable brain tumor at the time, and he
It,
said, "You're a business guy, right? So drink a lot of scotch and don't look back."
oh my, was he attempting to be funny?
No,
Yeah, I was like,
I
sign
thought
up for
I
comedy
asked him.
class because that's not funny. He needs
No.
a comedy class. But no, I've never heard of that. Wow. Yeah,
But you
that
need to preface that, Michael, how many years ago that was. Uh, that was a long time ago.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh
well,
my.
but at the time though, it was like so stupid. And
No, I
what
can't
I'm
believe you
hearing
said
is
that.
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Kelly is she's going through the same stuff, like where they tell her she should be dead, like it's a death sentence. That's basically what he was telling me. So I think there's a opportunity for I don't know, this group or somebody to talk to doctors and oncologists, because really the model I use is you're on a bell curve. We don't know when you're going to die. You could die out here, or you could die over here, or you could die in the middle. Nobody knows.
Michael, I agree with you, and I actually agree with so okay, so we have these bad statistics for colon cancer, right? 80% of us die in 1 to 2 years. But here's what's fascinating, and I've asked everybody. Okay, well, because when I first got diagnosed, I was like, okay, I just need to be in that 20%. And anyone I met with, I was like, what do we know about that 20%? And what I have found out talking to the best people, no one knows. And so I agree with you, Michael. If we don't know how that 20%, which I am now a part of, lives longer than two years, then why don't you assume all of us could be the 20%? And what I find is oncologists look at all of us as the 80%, and it really upsets me because they don't know which of us, and just because 80% is high, it doesn't matter. It really upsets me that that it seems for colon cancer, many oncologists treat all of us that we will automatically be the 80% that's only going to live 1 to 2 years. And I'm like, 20% may sound low, but that's 1 in 5 people. And you don't know which one of us is the 1 in 5. So yeah, I agree with you, Michael. I think we should all be treated as the 1 in 5. And if we don't make it, we don't make it. But don't just automatically on day one put us in the 80%. And this is what I'm seeing in colon cancer. Most oncologists just throw all of us in that 80%. And it really upsets me because they don't know, like you're saying. And here I am, one of the 20%ers, even though both of my oncologists didn't believe. Neither one of them believed I was going to make it past 2 years. And here I am. And so I agree with you, Michael. It really, really upsets me because they don't know how they have no way of predicting how long we're going to live. And it really upsets me when they put these timelines on us. It really does because even they don't know how long. So yeah, I think it's wildly inappropriate, especially when we're first diagnosed, for any oncologist to put that time on us. I think it's really wrong. I really do.
Georges?
Yeah, it is a little bit tough for me to hear some of this stuff because I'm one of the few that dare to explore the unknown. Chemo was not working for me. I was a stage 4 melanoma with mets in the brain, and had 10 surgeries. Thanks for the surgeries. People know that a little bit if you've been coming to these meetings. But you mentioned, Kelly, that your dear friend, chemo did not work for her and she passed. But that's not necessary. See what happens, I see ourselves so trained that the only way to heal is to go to oncology, immunotherapy, and all these new quote unquote modalities that pharma give us. And that's fine. But have you explored anything else than just the chemo? I'm curious about that. Any other modalities that you can do parallel to that? I'm curious to
Oh,
your
sure.
answer.
No, so I do know that people do these things. So I have made some changes. One thing that I admit I didn't know a lot about, like, the gut biome. I admit I did not. So there's a few things I did change in terms of what I eat. And I'm not 100%, but I'd say I'm like at 95, 96%. Like, I did switch to all organic foods. I was not one historically that had purchased only. So I did make that switch because we do know my cancer is not genetic. So I picked it up in my environment somehow. We don't know how, but I did make that switch. Also, like I said, I didn't know much about the gut biome. And so although I felt that I was healthy in a lot of things, I realized, like, I would get black beans because in my mind I'm thinking that's healthy, but I realized I wasn't eating lentils or other beans. And I would eat salads, but I always had spinach. I didn't really have arugula, or so I didn't have enough, I feel, diversity in there were certain fruits I would always just eat. So one change I've made is, at least, especially since it was colon cancer that I had, that I was not very knowledgeable about before getting diagnosed, is that you really do need a diverse. So now I was just telling someone, that like I was somewhere and like fennel was an option. I was like, oh, I haven't had fennel in a long time, or hearts of palm. I put that on my I was like, oh, it's been so I've tried to each week do like 30 different veggies for like, or if I haven't had lentils in a while or quinoa in a while. And so that is a change. I feel like the major changes I've made are diet. Um, I do hear what you're saying. I myself am sticking to City of Hope right now. And so but I do know that I hear what you're saying about chemo, and I know it doesn't work for a lot of people, and the side effects are pretty horrific. They were for me. So I do get why people try other holistic treatments. So for myself, the only kind of holistic change I would say is I have made some major changes to diet. I will say that. But it's tough with liver because sometimes things can there definitely are alternative things people take. I know like in Japan, turkey tail mushroom is given like it's part of even what hospitals prescribe. We don't do this here, but so I know that's something that is done, and there are other milk thistle and other things that people do for liver. So I do know there are alternative treatments that people do usually in conjunction. But I hear what you're saying. For myself, I'm still choosing to do chemo, but I completely understand why people don't want to do it. And you are right. It always stops working. So I have had some miraculous responses on it, but I'm very aware that it doesn't destroy tumors, it shrinks them.
Yeah.
And I do know that it always stops working for everybody. So
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying on that.
Yeah, one last thing, and thank you for answering, because it really boggles my mind that, it is not just the physical body. That's really the point. In my case, I stopped having recurrences, 10 years and 10 surgeries, when I worked on my entire person, my body, my emotions, my mindset, and my spirituality. And emotional clutter, once I cleared that, I never had one recurrence again.
No, I do think, and I'm sorry, I was thinking more about physical stuff, but you're right. I do think mental health, and I do agree with you, and I'm still working on myself as well. I feel like I'm good. I'm still working on, I do get angry on the 405 in LA, and I'm still trying to work on that. It is my biggest character flaw. I don't mess with other drivers, but I cannot be zen in the car. But no, I do agree with you, and it's why I would say 98% of the time I am very positive. I try not to dwell on this. I try to forget I have it and just focus on my jobs and my comedy. And I do think you are right. And I do think negative emotions in general are take a huge effect on our physical health. So I do appreciate you bringing that up. And I absolutely think, and I also think that's why this is really good. I think social support also has amazing effects on our physical health. And I think it's really important. So I'm so glad that you all have this group, because I also think social support's one of the most important things we can do for our physical health as well. So no, I agree with you. I think um anger and bitterness and anxiety and fear can absolutely wreck us physically. So I do agree with you that that's a big part. And I wouldn't say I'm completely done, but I do agree with you. I do feel that I'm trying to work on that as well.
Kelly, you mentioned
Amazing.
about driving on the 405 and not having and I used to drive on the 405 every day. I drove it for years and years. And to me, what you just said, that was really funny because I know what it's like. It
Yeah.
is one frustrating uh freeway because, they should, in fact, for the 405, it's the San Diego freeway, they should take free off of that pathway
Yes.
because it's not free. It's
Yep.
always, you know, unless you're going at 3 in the morning. If you're going during regular day hours, particularly in the morning during rush hour or coming back from work, it's a crawl. And that's every single day. So you shared with us some amazing insights. Would you mind sharing a couple of your best cancer jokes?
Um, sure. Well, all right, I hope you all like these. So I do have one. So this goes back to my William's question of about
Why
when
doesn't
people.
everybody unmute themselves so that
Oh, and you don't have to laugh. I know it's a um so um I do have a joke. So I already told you all about pizza, but going back, William and asked like what do you wish people had said? And so I'm going to share with you all. First, this joke comes from one of my pet peeves, is because surgery has drastically changed my appearance for the worse. So I'm just going to share you that. All right. And so one thing that people have done to me from day one is when they see me, they go, Kelly, you look amazing. You look great. You look so good. And so I have a joke that I like compliments because if I post a photo on social media, I'll be flooded now. You're gorgeous, Kelly. You're beautiful. And so I have been on social media for 14 years. Nobody called me beautiful until I got stage 4 cancer on. So I've gone from an LA 5 to a cancer 9. So that's one of my favorite jokes. And I love that joke because it makes me feel good telling it because it is a pet peeve of mine, William. I don't like when people I know they mean well. So I always say thank you. But you never called me those things when I looked better before cancer. And so it drives me crazy on social media. They're like, you're gorgeous. And I'm like, you never called me that when I actually looked better. So yeah, that's one of my jokes.
True.
I've gone from an LA 5 to a cancer 9. Um, I so I have one too. It's not in the show, and you all can tell me if you think this is too dark, but it's another thing, William, that people will say to you, especially with stage 4 when you first get diagnosed. Um, so people tell you you need to get your affairs in order. And so I have done this. My first affair will be with George Clooney. Affair number 2 is Brad Pitt. And affair
Wow.
number 3 will be Yo-Yo Ma because I'm classy. So that's one of my favorite jokes. And then I say, oh, that's not what affairs in order means. What they mean is, you need to write a will to give your prized possessions away. My sister's a doctor and my brother's a district manager for a major restaurant chain. Who shall I give my IKEA furniture to? I mean, this is going to tear my family apart. Who shall I give my Jersey Mike's points to? So this is ridiculous. So my affairs are in order are George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Yo-Yo Ma, because no one needs my IKEA furniture. I think this is a ridiculous thing for people to tell me to do, about affairs in order. So I like that joke too. And I told you about the Pizza Hut one, that it does upset me that my legacy might be the first female Pizza Hut delivery driver. And so I'm sorry, Mark, I should know more off the top of my head. But the 5 to 9, that's usually people's favorite joke. Also, when I was first diagnosed, uh, people do try to tell you how to cure your cancer. And so uh, so I got a lot of soup recipes. So I have a joke about soup recipe, radish soup, which is going to cure my stage 4 colon cancer. Gosh, Mark, I feel like I should know more off the top of my head. Where am I
How
forgetting?
about
But
one
yeah,
more? One more.
um, uh, I Yeah, hold on. I should know one more off the top of my head. Um, just one why am I blanking on the spot? Um, I those are one, the 5 to 9, the soup. I should have another. I guess the other one, it's small one, but I have how when I was all I was diagnosed 47, and so I say in the show, I can't believe I have cancer. I'm so young. Well, not LA young, but I'm cancer young. But yeah, 47 when I was diagnosed,
Oh,
that's not LA young, but it is cancer young. So there's another cancer
oh
joke.
my God.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. I should have had more on the spot for you, Mark. Sorry. I'm letting you know
That's
I'm a
okay,
comedy
Kelly.
man.
That's okay. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna wrap up the recording, and then we'll open it up afterwards. Just want to say thank you to everyone who's joining us, whether you're here or whether you're seeing it on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. But I hope everybody has a fantastic week, and we will see you shortly on another video. Thank you so much, Kelly. We appreciate you joining us here at the Cancer Conquering Community, and we will see you next time. Thank you.